Beautiful story. The night fire was born, extended sleeping story. Perfect for a bedtime tale filled with wonder, peace, and ancestral comfort. The night fire was born. Before the first footprints were etched into soft soil. Before names clung to rivers or trees, before stars had meanings, before time had a voice. There was only the wild. A world vast and breathing. A world without kings, borders, or noise. Where the wind roamed free and nameless through the tall grasses, and the night had no edges. Where animals moved with confidence, and humans, still new, still learning, moved like whispers among giants. They had no homes. No roof but the sky, no walls but trees. Their days were full of movement. Their nights were full of questions. They followed the herds, the rains, the blooming of berries and the migration of birds. They drank from cold rivers and ate what the land gave. Their eyes were sharp. Their ears were sharper. But at night, they were small. As the sun sank low, long shadows crawled across the land like fingers. The blue sky deepened into velvet, and the air grew cold and close. The people gathered together, bones aching from walking, bellies half full, children drowsy in their arms. They curled close, shoulder to shoulder, heartbeat to heartbeat, trying to hold in warmth as the stars bloomed above. There was no comfort then but each other. No protection but presence. No glow to drive back the dark. Only silence, breath, and the long hush of night creatures waking. They listened. To the rustle of something unseen. To the distant calls of hunting beasts. To the winds that moved like spirits through trees. And inside their chests, the question flickered again. How do we survive this night? Then one night, far away in what we now call Africa, under a sky heavy with stars, something ancient stirred. A mistake. Or maybe not. Two stones, held in two curious hands, struck together. A spark jumped. So small, it could have been missed. But it wasn't. It landed in dry grass. A pause. A shimmer. Then, a breath of flame. Tiny. Golden. Alive. It wavered like a newborn. Then it rose. It hissed like a whisper from the earth itself. And for the first time since humans had walked the land, the night answered them back, with light. The people gathered close, astonished. They had seen light before, the sun, the moon, the stars. But this was different. This light belonged to them. It kissed their skin with warmth. It painted the ground with moving shadows. It drove the cold from their bones and the fear from their hearts. The beasts in the dark paused. They smelled the heat. They felt the shift. And slowly, carefully, they stepped back. The humans had found something new. Something powerful. At first, they watched the fire like it was a spirit, alive and unknowable. They didn't try to control it. They offered it dry wood and sat in awe as it grew, as it danced, as it hummed. Then slowly, they began to learn. They learned what made it grow. What made it die. What made it angry. They learned that fire could devour, but also protect. That it could destroy, but also teach. They learned to cook the roots and meats their teeth once tore apart raw. They learned to harden tools, to chase away disease, to dry the wet and soften the hard. They learned to carry embers in bowls of ash, keeping the flame alive as they wandered. They passed it from hand to hand like a secret, like a treasure, like a heartbeat. And around it, something else was born. Togetherness. They sat longer now. No longer huddled in fear, but drawn by choice to the warmth. They shared food. They shared songs. They told stories with their hands and eyes. The fire became their sun in the night. A center. A circle. A beginning. Picture it. A ring of people, your ancestors and mine, sitting in the cradle of time. The ground cool beneath them, the stars watching above. Ash smudged on cheeks. Laughter rising like sparks. A mother hums, her child tucked into the crook of her arm. An elder tells a story with slow hands and patient eyes. The fire crackles. The sky listens. And for the first time ever, the night feels like home. They are not running anymore. They are not hiding. They are here. Together. Whole. The fire did not make them gods. But it made them more than shadows in the dark. It gave them light, not just outside, but inside. And that changed everything. That tiny spark led to villages. Then to stories. To songs. To language. To memory. To art on cave walls and drums echoing through valleys. To the soft hush of bedtime tales, whispered across time. And now, to you. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavy and the world quiets. As you lie safe beneath your own roof, your own stars, your own breath. Remember. You are part of that story. You carry the light that once broke the night. The same fire that warmed the first mother and her child. The same spark that taught us to gather, to learn, to love. Close your eyes. Feel the warmth in your chest. Let it glow. You are the flame keeper now. The night still listens. The stars still watch. And the fire still burns, gentle, golden, and yours. Fire. Sleep well, flame keeper. The story continues in you. The night fire was born. An extended sleeping story for dreamers, wanderers, and flame keepers. Before time wore numbers. Before the sky had names. Before hearts beat to the rhythm of clocks and calendars. There was only the wild. It was not quiet, but it was still. It was not tame, but it was whole. The world was wrapped in green and gold, in soil and silence, in stars and scent. It stretched endlessly in every direction, with no borders, no signs, no fences, just freedom. Animals ruled the plains, the forests, and the mountains. Their paws marked the trails. Their eyes shaped the night. The rivers ran clean and fast, the wind whispered through untouched trees, and the sun. The sun came and went like a great, breathing drumbeat across the sky. And in that world, new and blinking, came us. Humans. Not yet mighty. Not yet builders or bakers or dreamers of cities. Just curious. Just walking. Just listening. They moved barefoot across the earth, feeling every grain of sand, every blade of grass, every stone. Their hands were tools. Their ears were maps. Their eyes were stories in the making. And at the end of each day, when the sun dipped below the hills and the great curtain of night unfolded, they stopped. They gathered. And they waited. The darkness came quickly in those ancient days. A thick, velvet hush that wrapped around their small, tired bodies. The temperature dropped, the ground grew cold. Their voices fell quiet. They held each other close, not out of love alone, but out of need. They had no houses. No fire. No way to hold back the dark. The night belonged to the beasts. To the shadows. To the unknown. And every night, as they stared into the deep sky above, they must have wondered. Will we see the light again? But then, something changed. Something small. Something eternal. It happened somewhere near the cradle of the world. What we now call Africa. Where the soil is red and rich, and the stars stretch wide above the plains. There, one night, beneath the pale watch of the moon, a hand reached for a stone. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was accident. Or maybe, just maybe, it was destiny knocking softly. The stone struck another. Once. Then again. And again. A spark. Tiny. Bright. Gone in a breath. But not gone for good. It kissed a curl of dry grass. And in the stillness, a flicker rose. A flame, small, orange, almost shy. It danced like a newborn spirit, uncertain of the world. The people stared. First in silence. Then in awe. Then, in reverence. The fire whispered warmth against their skin. It lit up their faces, turned their shadows into dancers. It chased the cold from their bones, the fear from their eyes. And the beasts. The beasts in the dark took a step back. Then another. Then vanished into the trees. For the first time. Humans were not prey. They were not just surviving. They were becoming. The fire did not roar. It crackled. It did not command. It invited. And around it, everything changed. They could see one another in the night. They could rest without trembling. They could speak without whispering. It was more than heat. It was memory. It was promise. It was the first light of the long story to come. They learned. Oh, how they learned. Which woods gave steady flames. Which ones smoked and sputtered. They learned to feed the fire, not too much, not too little. They learned to carry it, protect it, share it. And as the flames danced, so did language. One word became two. One gesture became a tale. A memory passed from mouth to ear, from elder to child. They cooked. They gathered. They made time for stillness. And stories were born. Can you see it now? A circle of people, gathered close. Some old, their skin lined like river maps. Some young, eyes wide with questions. A baby breathing softly on her mother's chest. The scent of roasted roots in the air. Laughter. Murmurs. A song hummed low. The fire crackles. The stars blink gently. The wind listens but does not disturb. This is the first home. Not a roof. Not a wall. But a circle of warmth. Of presence. Of light. And so, the fire was passed on. Generation to generation. Across deserts. Across oceans. Across the centuries. It burned in caves and villages, in temples and hearths. It lit the path for explorers. It warmed the hands of mothers. It taught, it healed, it held. Until one day, it found you. So now, as you lie down beneath your own roof. Your own sky, your own soft blanket. Remember that spark. It lives in you. That same ancient light. The one that broke the darkness for the very first time. Still glows quietly behind your ribs. It hums in your dreams. It flickers in your hopes. You are a flame keeper. A story bearer. Part of an unbroken chain of warmth and wonder. So let the world grow quiet now. Let the darkness come. It holds no fear anymore. You carry the light. Close your eyes. Feel the warmth in your chest. Breathe in. Breathe out. The fire still burns. And you are home. Fire. Sleep well, flame keeper. Tomorrow, the story continues. Part 2, When Fire Began to Dream. A soft continuation of The Night Fire was born. The fire stayed. Night after night, the people gathered. Not just to survive, but to be together. To remember. To imagine. Because the fire did something strange, something no beast, no tree, no storm had done before. It made them dream. Not the silent dreams that drift behind closed eyes. But the waking dreams, the kind born of wonder. The kind that ask. What if? What if we could hunt better? What if we could plant seeds, and food would grow? What if we shaped stone not just to strike, but to carve? What if the stars were not just lights, but messages? The fire did not answer. It only listened, glowing softly. But in its warmth, ideas flickered like sparks. Soon, the people did more than eat. They carved. They painted. They drummed their hands against stretched hides, mimicking thunder and hoofbeats. They began to notice patterns. How the moon waxed and waned. How the sun always rose again, no matter how deep the night. How birds returned in seasons, how trees gave fruit and then slept. They began to name things. To hold on to moments, not just in their memories, but in words. And every new word was like kindling. The more they spoke, the more they imagined. The more they imagined, the more they created. And the more they created, the more human they became. Around the fire, children listened with wide eyes. They heard stories of the great lions, of the river spirits, of the starbirds that flew beyond the clouds. They asked questions, endless, beautiful, impossible questions. And every answer became another stone in the great path of knowledge. The fire never moved. It simply burned. And with it, time flowed gently forward. Years passed. Then generations. The circle grew. Villages formed. Voices multiplied. And still, the fire remained at the center. Its light stretched across deserts, over mountains, across seas. It warmed the frozen north. It lit the jungles of the south. It cooked rice, roasted fish, boiled tea, smelted metal. It grew with us. But here's something few remember. Though we carried fire through every age, it also carried us. It was our first teacher. Our first shield. Our first mirror. It gave us space to wonder. To speak. To pause. To love. And most of all, it gave us a place to dream out loud. So now, Flame Keeper, as your eyelids grow heavy, as the quiet of night begins to wrap gently around your thoughts, let yourself drift back. Back to the circle. Back to the wild. Back to the first flicker that dared to rise from stone and spark. Feel the warmth on your cheeks. Hear the crackle in your chest. Know that you are not alone. You are a part of something vast and ancient. A story made of fire, stars, and the whisper of human breath. Sleep now. And if you dream, may your dream be filled with embers and stars. With ancestors beside you, and the fire gently glowing at your feet. You are safe. You are held. You are home. Fire. Sleep well, dreamer. The fire still dreams with you. They learned what made it grow. What made it die. What made it angry. They learned that fire could devour, but also protect. That it could destroy, but also teach. They learned to cook the roots and meats their teeth once tore apart raw. They learned to harden tools, to chase away disease, to dry the wet and soften the hard. They learned to carry embers in bowls of ash, keeping the flame alive as they wandered. They passed it from hand to hand like a secret, like a treasure, like a heartbeat. And around it, something else was born. Togetherness. They sat longer now. No longer huddled in fear, but drawn by choice to the warmth. They shared food. They shared songs. They told stories with their hands and eyes.